Hey guys, welcome into the Poker Reborn channel. We are back with some more Battle Brothers content. This is the top 5 named weapons of the week. This is the second week, of course. Once we get a month's worth of top 5s, at least the winners will face each other at the end of the month, so stay tuned for that, of course. But besides that, guys, hit the like, subscribe, and if you do want to submit your weapon, check out the description below. It'll give you all the information that you're looking for in order to do that. So without further ado, let's jump into some of the notable mentions, the honorable mentions, if you will. And so the first one that I want to go over here, I want to thank Snuck for his glorious shower. This is the three-headed flail, of course. As you can see on the screen here, there is so much good going on here, and it was really tough for me not to put this one at least in the tail end of the top 5, but still, the damage itself really gets a jump, 37 to 93, and then of course the other part is the max fatigue drop set to 7 max fatigue. Now granted, it's only a 3 drop, but when we're talking about negating as much fatigue off this weapon as possible, it's a beautiful, it goes in hand because every time you use the weapon, it does at least 15 fatigue per use. So that's 2 per turn, that's 30 in one fell swoop of a round. So yeah, this is a really nice weapon, great damage. This has got to be incredibly fun to use. But yeah, that's the first honorable mention. The next one here is, unfortunately, this one here got disqualified. I had it in the top 5, but I had to drop it out, and that is Slow Soft. I didn't realize that this weapon had not been bought. Guys, when you do submit a weapon, or if I do ask, this was on me mostly, but this weapon is insane. Okay, nonetheless, the actual 45 to 95 damage is just, what do I say? It's nasty. It's a nasty thing. You're jumping from 35 to 75, or from 35 to 75 all the way to 45 to 95. That's just insane. And then you talk about that extra 12% chance to hit, and with the AoE that it is, it's just an absolute beautiful weapon. But unfortunately, it got disqualified because it did not make the requirement. And then finally, we have ourselves Lovekin. Now Lovekin, you got yourself a very fine weapon here on the Swordlands. This is the Forefathers Reaper, and yes, it is reaping away, and oh, it's so nasty. Nasty when it hits. This damage is absolutely atrocious, okay? The original damage is 60 to 80, and this thing's pure damage is 67 to 98. The range and damage is fantastic, and on top of that, you're eating armor like you'd never eaten armor before. This thing gets a 44% jump. Yes, a 44% jump. It goes from 90, the base normally is 90% armor damage. This thing jumps to 134 effectiveness against armor. Absolutely insane. So you're probably wondering, why did this drop out? Well, unfortunately, I think that this is a named weapon off of the sword lance that the ancient undead get. So if you look at the durability, it's only 39. That is so bad. I mean, this weapon, when you're using it constantly over and over and over again, especially this weapon in particular, it's easy to brittle it down. So you need to avoid that. And there's some other weapons that I'm going to show you guys in a bit that kind of counteract that. So, without further ado, let's get into number 5. Number 5. The coldest of pizza. Yes, you found yourself an amazing weapon. This is the glorious Warband. And it's not the brand, it's the Warband. This thing will band its chains around your head and make your head go pop, okay? This thing is nasty. It's nasty, okay? When this thing hits you, it's guaranteed to make your eyes look a little bit closer at the thing that's attacking you, okay? It's gonna make your opticals star out for a little bit, okay? When you look at the damage on this bad boy, its jump goes from, this is the base, as you can see on the screen there, the three-headed flail, it does a 30 to 75 damage. This thing gets a jump from 38 to 95. Now what does that mean? That means that there's a possibility that through 3 strikes you can get up to 95% or 95 damage. Now granted, that's not always the case, and there's always variables because you're looking at the ignoring armor and so on. But the way that flails are used now, or three-headed flails in general, they are eating armor, they're eating serpents especially. I love them for serpents. But a lot of enemies, it's really super annoying in the south facing enemies with weapons like this. This thing is going to eat, and on top of that you get the 23% chance to hit the head on top of what you already have. Now why this is important is because the base of the three-headed flail is actually 10%. So you're getting a 13% chance to dump onto the head. Literally take a dump onto the head. Now here's the next part of this. Where we want to use this, you want to use this as a duelist, or if you're thinking about the gladiator campaign, you have the bear. Now the bear, this is a perfect weapon for the bear. You're talking about a guy who has to use a shield. I love this. You synergize that with recovery because, and you really want to use, I always say this now, especially is when you're using three-headed flails, you're going to want to use the mastery, especially because when you're using it, you're doing 15 freaking you're doing 15 fatigue every time you swing this thing. So to drop it down to 12, I believe it's 12 or 11, but nonetheless, dropping it down in that use per turn is huge. And this weapon is going to just, it's going to break people open. I absolutely love it. Get yourself some Headhunter with this bad boy as well, and you are just going to eat away at anybody's head. And I can't, and don't even get me started with the shields. Okay, you guys know what three-headed flails are. Let's get on to the next one. Number 4. Now number 4, oh yeah, glorious. Oh, so glorious. It's the glorious war song. This thing will sing a song that will whiz straight through your armor, through your padding, and into your heart. Rest assured, this thing is dirty. It really is dirty. This thing is going to be absolutely nasty. It can't be any more nasty than the guy who ended up submitting this. The guy who submitted this is Harold McDonghard. Yes, you heard it correctly. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, I think it's McDonald, and as I got a closer look, it was a hard dong. So the point here is still remaining. It's a freaking amazing bow by a freaking sick man who wants to shoot somebody in the heart. Bless his heart. What the hell? But seriously, guys, this thing really does make a jump, and I have a comparison between the heavy crossbow and, of course, the war bow. I'm not going in so much to the mastery because, of course, we all know with a heavy crossbow, you're getting quite a good jump in the crossbow mastery. But if we're talking about that balance between the two of a war bow and a heavy crossbow, this thing hits the mark. And so if you're looking at the damage, the baseline damage for both the heavy crossbow and the warbow is 50 to 70. This thing gets a baseline jump to 60, and then of course a max increase to 84, which is 14. That is quite freaking amazing. And why that's amazing is because the pure damage matters when you're getting into the health, it matters when you're getting into the armor, and granted, any extra jump that you're getting a bonus across the board through ignoring armor and also effectiveness against armor. Now when you're talking 77%, if you guys don't already know, here's some math for you at least. The damage that you're looking at is 46 to 64 damage against armor. Now using this thing constantly over a course of a battle is beautiful. We all know when you're using the crossbow and you get those headshots, it's going to be nasty. This thing is more about just hitting the target. I wouldn't use like Headhunter, for instance, on it. I wouldn't use, I don't know. I want to be able to pelt whatever it is that I'm seeing, and I think the war song, again, is so meant for that. And when you look at the crossbow, this thing basically is doing crossbow damage plus some. Not even that. It's doing more damage in terms of effectiveness against armor. Just a base heavy crossbow. That is something to marvel over and definitely deserving of the number 1, or almost said number 1, the number 4 spot. Alright guys, before I get into number 3, I gotta say, holy crap, the next 3 are gonna blow your mind. These are top echelon freaking weapons. It was so hard for me to put them in their place, and number 3 really kills me. I think before my goodness, Blazing Deserts, I would have had this easily at a number 1 spot. The submission was just a week late, if you will. But yeah, man, we're all gonna have our debates and stuff, but in terms of the weapon itself in its own category, it is so stinking muy caliente. It is fantastic, okay? So, without further ado, number 3. Number 3 is the gruesome stinger. Ping, 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 ting, ping, ping, ting. Now I know you don't know what that is or what's going on, but I'm swinging my hand around because I need to block some stuff. I'm blocking ghosts. You can't see it, but I'm blocking them. See, riposte, my friends. This weapon before Blazing Deserts especially, people would make builds around this weapon and be thankful they had a chance to use it. If you're talking a duelist, this thing is absolutely insane. I'm going to go over exactly what's changed, and then we'll get into really the strategy behind it, because my god, JJ Pearson, you found yourself an amazing weapon. No, but for real. So here's the deal. The Noble Sword itself does 45 to 50 damage, and when you look at the Gruesome Stinger, you're getting a jump of freaking 13. Okay, you're getting a jump of 13 base to a jump of 14 max. So it's 58 to 64 compared to the 45 to 50. That is huge. That is a massive jump. That is a beautiful jump, especially for a sword itself, because it doesn't have the effectiveness against armor being 85. However, this is the thing that changes this weapon for a certain type of build, and that is the -3 less fatigue buildup. Now here's what that means. If you take 10 strikes in essence is 5 rounds, because you're doing 1 strike, 2 strike, that's 1 round. 1 strike, 2 strike, that's another round. Okay, so in 5 rounds, you save yourself 30 freaking mother freaking cow. I gotta be careful what I say here. You save a lot of fatigue, okay? You're saving yourself 30. Now, that is only 5 rounds. In 10 rounds, that's 60 fatigue that you're saving with this weapon. Now, some of you might say, well, that's not really that big of a deal because you already have an 8 max fatigue, so that's not great. Okay, but in the past, and we're talking about old builds, people would just use this as riposte. Let a million people surround you and riposte, and you ting, 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 and actually kill everything in your path, just demolish everything in your path. And this less buildup of fatigue, and with the Master itself, guys, it's just, I hope you guys feel my pain on this one. Number 3 is sick. This is a sick weapon. The only knock I have on this weapon, and it was the only reason, it wasn't the only reason, but it was one of the reasons that I had to let it drop 2-3, is because if you look at the Noble Sword, you have a durability of 72, where the Gruesome Stinger only has 66. I get it, it's not the end of the world, that's still pretty dang good durability, but still, you know, I want to see that higher, because a lot of that skill and what you want to do with it is sitting there riposting and constantly beating it on armor non-stop. So that's number 3, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below on this one, and especially with the next 2. So without further ado, let's get on to number 2. Number two, guys, is Cutter of the South. This thing is slicing the land out in California. I don't know what I'm talking about, but seriously, this is nuts. I love it. I absolutely love it. I just think of it like hitting a pork chop and it turning into a whole all-you-can-eat side of ribs. I don't know why that didn't make sense, but you know what? Somehow deep down inside, this magical thing inside of me that is probably a hexen controlling my brain is telling me that's what's going on in the South. The Cutter of the South is literally all that and then some. There's a very fine line of a little bit of salt, a little bit too much salt on the end of that rib, but that kind of makes it not a number 1. Now, granted, in any other week, I could see it easily being a number 1, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But being it's a two-handed scimitar, we need to get into the nuts and bolts of this weapon and understand it. Without further ado, before I do that, Alex Mars 78, thank you for the submission. Beautiful. You better be running across the land and killing everything that you see. It was supposed to be a song, but I just totally cut it off. Alright, so here's the deal. When you look at this weapon, the first thing you're going to notice is the actual damage. Now, with the base scimitar, the two-handed scimitar, I have used this thing, the base one, not this. I've never touched this bad boy, even though I wish I could. But I have killed an unhold in 5 strikes with a two-handed scimitar. Whether I was hitting the top end of damage, I was actually killing a unhold in 5 shots. It's grotesquely, it's grotesque in a beautiful sense. So when you look at the damage there, look at the damage at the Cutter of the South. 81 to freaking 106. Guys, what the heck is that? That is absurd. That, like, the base goes from 65 to 81. The top end goes to 106. That's absurd. That's literally absurd. You know, and then you put that against the effectiveness against armor at 110. That's just base. I mean, those are the same things. There's no difference in criteria there, but because the damage has such a massive jump, you're looking at close to 100, if not over 100, or worth of damage per shot. So if you're landing those hits, you're not only doing that, but here's the next criteria: 34% ignoring armor, has the potential of ignoring armor compared to the 25 on the baseline. That is, it's like a barbarian king that was born in the south and was meant to be in the north. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those type of things. It's literally the mad barbarian is crying up in the north. He's like, I decided to freeze myself in this cave because of that stupid cutter of the south. It's literally that. Now, you're probably wondering, what do you want to do with this thing? Well, I would personally use the mastery with the cleaver, of course, to constantly be able to hit, use berserk, get the killing frenzy on, get yourself executioner. Don't worry about crippling strikes, because this thing's going to absolutely put the damage high enough to cause injuries. If you wanted to do that, you could with crippling strikes, yes. But still, there's so much you could do, guys. And if you were to go with Headhunter, let's just play fun for a moment here. There's so many different things you can do with this to be effective. And if you're able to put fearsome on this bad boy, you're gonna make whatever you hit piss its pants. That's just the truth of the matter, right? So the only fine line, the little salt that got on the end of the rib there, is the actual durability. This is such, I had to nitpick this to get it to number 2, not number 1. And if you're looking at it, the durability is 64 for the base weapon, and this it's 59. So you're effectively losing 5 durability. I don't know how you guys, I mean, everybody's gonna view that differently, but that's how I had to decipher A1 and A2. This is an A2. So without further ado, let's get into the bad boy. But before we get into number 1, I must say, please hit the like, subscribe, and let other people know about this content. It is a top 5 video, and I want to provide more stuff like this for the community. If you believe in that, then you know what to do. But without further ado, number 1. Number 1 is the Deadly Edge. This thing has edged itself out, killing all the competition, breaking all the rest, except for number 2. Number 2 is pretty good. But this is the real deal. It is truly the Deadly Edge that won it all. It has killed snakes, it has killed webnecks, it has killed ghouls, it has killed... Shoot, it's even killed a hedge knight. 3 hedge knights, because the AoE is so freaking powerful. Oh man, what I would give... I mean, had you ever watch this video and just go, man, what I would give for that freaking weapon, you lucky bastard. Felito, congratulations on your absolute sand-flipping sweet weapon. It is amazing. You done a good job. Now this thing edged it out as an A1, not an A2, because of all the different criteria meeting expectations and then some. When I say and then some, we'll start with the durability. Now the baseline durability for a sword lance, I don't believe this is this is completely correct. I think this was pulled from the ancient undead. I may have that wrong. But either way, if the durability was 36, that is terrible for a sword lance. But this thing here at 64 is still edging it up and a higher end for durability on a weapon. So yeah, you're using it over and over again and still creating incredible results without breaking the weapon. Now let's get into what really makes this thing the Deadly Edge. It's straight up the damage. I mean, look at the freaking damage. This makes me, oh my god, I just want to throw something right now. The damage, the base damage is 60 to 80 on the normal sword lance. This thing is going up to 70 freaking 6 to 101. I mean, again, explosion. Sorry for blowing into the mic the way I did, but I'm in it. I'm in it to win it, and so is this thing. Your damage is really jumping massively. You're almost hitting the max end of a sword lance at 76, all the way to 101, which originally is 80. So yeah, I mean, you're definitely winning that battle, but I think the main thing comes up next, because the general consensus, I believe, for the community, not to speak for the whole community of Battle Brother lovers, is most people want high-end damage, pure damage, and a high number for percentage against or ignoring armor. Now, granted, I do think it depends on the weapon itself. An AoE definitely gives you a great edge, being able to cut in and get into the flesh of your enemy, causing a fear or morale check, ultimately. This weapon gives you that 12% extra compared to its baseline 30% on the sword lance. So that big jump is going to get into the flesh of the enemy. Now, I know that there was a weapon we talked about earlier that was the same sword lance, except it had greater amounts of armor damage, and that's equally as beautiful. But the durability edges everything out, the damage edges everything out, and the freaking getting into the flesh edges everything out. When you're using this weapon, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse with the whole fearsome perk, but it is a really big deal. If you have a brother who can get into the flesh, you need to have the fearsome perk. It's just part of the deal. If you can get a brother for it, you don't have to, but it really does help a lot. The other thing too with this weapon, having Headhunter actually does work pretty well because you have 3 chances through an AoE to actually hit the head, so in succession you can lob some heads off. Against zombies, that's incredibly effective because the more heads lobbing, the less crap you have to deal with. Just something to think about. But still, I don't know. There's no like criteria to this weapon that says to me it's not worthy of number 1. Beautiful weapon. Again, Felito, congratulations on this absolutely astonishing weapon. I think Deadly Edge is exactly what it did this week for you. And this weapon will now be entered into the monthly contest. At the end of the month, we will face off the weapons. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait through September I'm going to wait through till September, so that way we have ourselves a chunk of weapons, because I did start the series a little bit late. But yeah, so thank you guys. Thank you everybody who's submitting. Please, if you want to submit a weapon, you have to own it. And all the other criteria and stuff is in the description below. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!